Energy from waste facilities, like this one operated by Covanta in Huntsville, is a great example of one of the alternatives for better use of solid waste. Here, garbage trucks deliver their load to the tipping room floor, where the waste is screened for anything that is not processable to the plant. It is then deposited into the pit, where the grapple operators take over.
We have two grapples that are being operated over my shoulder here, and the control room operator will take the waste and mix it, and again, looking for anything that's undesirable, and then to get a nice homogeneous blend out of the waste stream and feed it to one of our two boilers.
The boilers run 24/7, 365 days a year. The waste is fed to the boilers, where combustion takes place. The heat is transferred through the tubes of the boiler to the water to make steam. The steam is processed for a variety of uses for the nearby Redstone Arsenal. As for the gases that are created from the combustion, Covanta also has a system in place for that.
Now, as the flue gas proceeds through the unit, it cools down. We have air pollution control equipment that will take lime slurry and scrub out any acid gas emissions that may be there. A bag house that will take out any of the particulate matter. We feed in activated carbon that will remove any mercury that might be in the flue gas. And then in the firebox itself, we'll actually feed aqueous ammonia, and that takes care of any NOx emissions that we might have.
Some key advantages to this solution of waste disposal is that it reduces long-haul transport and landfill usage. There's a 75% reduction in weight and a 90% reduction in volume of solid waste. So how does a landfill's energy recovery stack up against an energy recovery unit?
So landfill gas recovery would typically recover 20 kilowatts per ton processed. In an energy from waste facility, we would do 550 to 600 kilowatts per ton processed. For every ton of waste that we process, that would be the equivalent of offsetting 1 barrel of petroleum product or a quarter ton of coal in energy equivalent.
Some of the long-term benefits of energy from waste facilities are energy security by making renewable energy available locally. It creates jobs. A typical facility creates approximately 1,000 jobs. And climate change. For every 1 ton of gas, there's 1 ton of CO2 reduced.
We're considered a net reducer of greenhouse gas emissions. If you were to take and bury a ton of MSW in a landfill, it will decompose and produce methane, which is 20 times more potent greenhouse gas than CO2, which is what our main byproduct would be. It's much cheaper to site and build a landfill than it is to construct a facility like this. But I think in the long haul, the energy from waste is certainly a more environmentally sound option. So you have to have a community that's willing to have a facility like this, but also that has a waste stream that can support running a facility 24/7, 365 days a year. So there has to be a sufficient waste stream available in the surrounding community. So at the end of the day, you know, most people put their trash to the curb and it disappears and they don't think about it any more than that. And we can take that bag of trash and we can bury it in the ground and get absolutely nothing out of it. Or we can recover the energy at a facility like this and have something better for it.
The Decatur-Morgan County landfill is operational 10 hours a day for 5.5 days. And in that time, they take in an average of about 700 tons of solid waste per day. And because this facility is part of the Green Waste Program, they do their best to make the most of the waste that comes in.
We do a lot of different things here. We have an MSW landfill, we have a C&D landfill, we have a curbside recycling program, we have a green waste recycling program, and we also have electric generation program. And our most recent addition to everything we do here is treating our leachate before we send it back to the PO2W, so we can remove as many of the things in there that are hazardous or that are concerns people, and we can clean that water up and get it back to them.
The first stop at the Decatur landfill is the recycling center.
In 2010, we decided to spend about $3.5 million to install a recycling facility, and the city started picking up our curbside recycling in February of 2011. We have 4 automated trucks, and they go over the entire city every 2 weeks, and they pick up 65-gallon carts, and we bring it here to the recyclery for processing.
The facility accepts corrugated cardboard, newspaper, mixed paper, number 1 and number 2 plastics, steel, aluminum, and tin cans.
One of the main environmental benefits is the ability to conserve natural resources, but we're also saving landfill space, and landfill space is extremely expensive, and so we're helping our city in 2 ways.
And the recycling center at the Decatur landfill serves the community by more than just putting used materials to work.
One of the main things that we wanted to do was to take back control of the recycling. We wanted to put people to work, and we have. We have about 8 people who are full-time employees here at the recycling facility. We also have some temporary employees, and we also use state release workers. We wanted to make sure that people had the opportunity to recycle. We wanted to make it easier for them to recycle, and the 65-gallon rolling cart certainly makes it easier. We feel that recycling is really the impetus or the push for manufacturing in the future, so we intend to be on the front lines as far as manufacturing goes in this town, and so recycling is very important in that aspect too.
Originally 20 years ago, when we got ready to start recycling, back in those days it was to save space, but since then it's become much more than that. And in addition to saving space, it also provides the citizens another option of disposal, where we don't have to landfill everything. We use everything we recycle and make different products out of it when we send the material out and have it sold and those kind of things. And the biggest thing we want to do is to train the younger people coming up that there's better options than just landfill. And our participation rate has gone up since those 20 years, up twofold. Right now we're doing about 32 tons a week. It started out at about 20 tons a week, so we're taking small steps to encourage everybody to recycle.
Another way the Decatur landfill is putting the waste to work is by using the methane produced by waste to fuel generators to create electricity. Located at the landfill and operated by Granger are 2 16-cylinder engines capable of producing 1,000 kilowatts per hour. What does that translate into for a normal household?
The normal household in Alabama uses approximately 1,000 to 1,200 kilowatts of electricity per month. Every time somebody throws some trash away that goes in one of these landfills, it's going to produce methane. The bugs are going to start working on it, and there's going to be methane produced, and it's out there for the public and it's for the private investors.
Not a drop of the methane is wasted or flared. The engines use all of the methane that is being produced by the landfill.
We could flare the gas and stop the migration by just running the flare, but this is a much better idea to utilize it, and the public gets a lot of benefit from this. This could sustain a small city, just this engine right here. With a little conservative thinking and some plans ahead, these engines and these landfills can run small towns.
The engines run about 98% of the time, meaning they are only shut down for routine maintenance such as changing the oil and spark plugs.
It's a relatively new idea, and the government regulations, I think, are so that it's not easy for the small operators to get in the business, but the more trash we have, the more methane that we have. And the more methane that we have that we don't capture, the more money is wasted.
And we've got on the table possibly a project that's going to recycle to even a greater degree the MSW that comes in here and potentially produce crude oil out of that operation. So we have a lot of ideas. We try to be a service-oriented landfill as opposed to a profit-oriented landfill, because we serve the citizens of not only this county, but we have a 19-county permitted service area, so we provide a vital disposal option to a lot of industries and counties in North Alabama.
At an ordinary landfill, the waste that comes in doesn't just simply get dumped into the ground. There are environmental precautions that are taken to prevent seepage into groundwater.
The one thing about liner systems since the 70s, when pretty much almost every state started mandating, one is what most people are not familiar with. All the trash, the liquids that come off, usually go into the environment. They go into the underground. With a system like this, we're able to contain everything into a giant system that has a piping system that will pump out all the fluids out of the landfill and are treated and released in other areas where they're either disposed of in toxic areas or they're able to be released in the environment at a better treatment area. Your first layer is very important due to the reason is, one, of the environment, not using so much clay, the cost efficient, what a state pays to build one of these, and the amount of trash you can put in, so it's benefit for everyone. This actual material that we're using right now is called an Agro 60 micro spike. What it means is the actual bottom layer of a landfill usually consists of 60 mil of liner. That liner right here is being welded by a wedge. That actual wedge melts this plastic at 850 degrees. Above ground, a system like this will last you 9 years. Just covered up, the liner lasts 25 years. Once you weld this together, this is actually an oil product. It will never degrade. This is here for life. You know, that's why it's beneficial for a site. Especially adding a 3-layer system, you're giving yourself that extra protection on it.
We hope that by providing these examples of some of the different methods of processing solid waste in the state of Alabama, you may have a bit more insight to help decide the ways in which we can improve planning and regulations. And by doing so, keep the state of Alabama efficient and beautiful.
So the public, we think, plays a vital role because we're all generators of solid waste. We all foot the bill for its management in the state. And so ultimately, we all have to have a say in how this process should be done and ultimately how it should be regulated.